Hello and welcome to another BXG podcast production of the BXG LLC. I am your host, Gregory T. Filson, and the T stands for trying to do this solo. That's right. Solo pod this week. Brenton's getting a little R&R in Cabo San Lucas from what I've been told. So I'm doing a mailbag. Just a little quick house cleaning. Check us out everywhere. YouTube videos are popping. We got a lot of good reactions to trailers. Oppenheimer's up there, so check those out on YouTube. Great stuff. I think that's where you're gonna find some high quality content most of the time. Also, all the places to download us for the podcast. Check us out on Apple Music, Spotify, all that stuff, all those good things. So you want to check us out there. So because we're doing a solo pod, I'm not going to be reviewing anything without my esteemed co-host. I'm sure if I was asking how he was doing, it'd be cold and it's probably snowing or trying to snow there in Western Pennsylvania, unless he is in Cabo. I'm not really sure. He's off the grid at this point. Godspeed to you, sir. I am doing fine. It's sunny, as you can see. Beautiful Santa Barbara. It has been rainy off and on last couple days, but we're hoping to get through this last week of school being off before we head back with our heads held high and ready to rock and roll. So what we are doing as a solo pod, we meaning me and our adoring fans, millions across the globe, worldwide, we're doing a mailbag. Now, I know we're the first podcast to do a mailbag, so if it's a little weird for you to hear a mailbag on a podcast, I do apologize, but how we're going to do it, just random questions shot at me. I'll answer them as best I can. I looked at these just a little bit. I didn't try to think too hard about it. I wanted to kind of go off the cuff. So, our first mailbag question, a lot of these are from everywhere. I'll maybe shout out a couple, but Ty sent one in. My fiance Janie sent some in. We'll see what else we got out there. But the first question, favorite video game character of all time? It's a great question. Great question. Obviously, I'm going to go backwards in time a while. I don't have these newfangled games that, Brenton plays. I don't really deal too much with that. But my favorite video game character, I'm probably getting a little too easy going here, but Link from Legend of Zelda. I love Link. I remember playing the original Legend of Zelda. Just the ability to grab the swords. Also thought it was funny. He was always wearing that short little outfit. That was funny. So a lot of times people thought he was Zelda, too. That was sort of a funny thing. The game was Zelda. So, until you got to a Link to the Past, a little pun name, Link from Zelda. Still, those games are still fun. I've played a couple of the newer ones just kind of here and there. Those are still fun games. So that would be my favorite video game character of all time. There's a lot of good ones out there from our era. Any of the Street Fighters were always good. I was a Ryu guy on the Street Fighter. That was always good. But yeah, Link. So best cartoon from childhood. This is tough. Because I was going to say Looney Tunes, but that's not really from our childhood. They played during our childhood, but that was more from the 60s, 70s era. I love Bugs Bunny. He's always up to stuff, I like that. But I think if we're specifically speaking our childhood, the 90s, Animaniacs, specifically Pinky and the Brain. What are we up to? Same thing we do every day. Pinky tried to take over the world. So I do like that. I will say I'm going to go with Pinky and the Brain specifically off of Animaniacs. But I also just really like Animaniacs. The song was super catchy. It's funny as Steven Spielberg. So I'm going to say Animaniacs. Piling through here. Just a word from one of our sponsors here. Might as well a good time for a sponsor break. If you need a nice, refreshing water, get some from your tap. Tap water. Proud sponsor of the BXG podcast. Tap water. Delicious tap water here in Santa Barbara. Not really. It's hard to have good tap water, but a proud sponsor of our podcast. Next question. How many Skittles do you think Brenton can fit in his mouth before he spits them out? I like this is directed at Brenton and not me. Notoriously small mouth person, me. My dentist told me that, which I came back and remember telling my teachers. I thought you always said I had a big mouth. I have a small mouth. I'd also have like 4 teeth removed just to get in there to tell you how small my teeth are or how much small my mouth is. I'd have teeth removed before I got braces because there just wasn't enough room in there. So I have a small mouth. Brenton, I'm not sure, known to have a big mouth, but that was the question. How many? I've always thought with the Skittles thing, you hear this. My guess is somewhere between 75 and 90. I don't feel like you get the triple digits. I know Brenton likes, obviously, his ice cream, his cookies. I think there's also just going to be a point where like you gag off the sugar of a Skittle, and that's going to be gross. I don't think there's any proud moments where the sun kind of just went away there, but I don't think there's a proud moment in this. I've always thought that's been weird that people take such pride in stuffing those kind of things in their mouth. But I would say 75 to 90. Maybe we'll have them do that on the pod. I don't think there'd be any shame if he went lower. But I'd say 75 to 90 before he spits them out. I think you're just going to get that flavor is going to be too much. The fructose, the corn syrup, if you will, too. Another one. This is very specific to the pod, very specific to where we're up. Did Brenton foul Adam? So you, if you're listening in Australia or in Italia, España, any of those places, Argentina, congrats on your World Cup. Did Brenton foul Adam? Well, it wasn't called a foul on the court, but I was there. I was very close to the situation. Brenton, he attacked Adam with vigor. Adam was unable to proceed in his procedure. I don't know if it's called a foul, but it certainly wasn't clean. That's as far as I say. Since it wasn't called a foul in the court, I guess it wasn't. In the court of law, I guess he didn't, even though it was a mugging. It was a straight-out mugging. I think the other way to look at that, too, is not like either of those teams, Lakeview and Mercer, back in the day, were going to go any further that far along in the playoffs than, that next round or whatever. So, while I'm on the Lakeview side, having gone there, it wasn't called a foul on the court. It was just a straight-up mugging. Brenton should have went to jail for it. So, Brenton should have been in jail, not necessarily got a foul. It's a mugging. It was an attack. It was an assault. Brenton should have been in jail, at least overnight. How many wings is an impressive amount to eat at an all-you-can-eat night? Well, I remember going back to Quaker Steak and Lube, and we tried to figure out how many wings you needed to eat for it to be worth your value. I don't remember the exact price, but we figured around 45 wings. Tyler and I, back in the day, our younger days, or probably 17 to 19-year-old days, we figured 45, and we ate 45. And I think that's impressive. I think 45 is an impressive amount. Quaker Steak and Lube, mid-size wings. Not small wings, not great big wings. There's definitely better wing places overall, but, that's the thing about Quaker Steak and Lube, a lot of sauces. I think it's also the kind of sauce you're going. If you're just going for that mild, that buffalo 45, getting a little spicier, that's going to start messing with the stomach. Maybe a 30 is a good number. If you're going for just like a dry rub, I feel like you have to hit 50 because you're not really dealing with anything more than just flavored powder at that point. I think 50 is an impressive amount. I know I really am not doing anything like that in my age. I can't do things like that. Heartburn hits me a lot now. So, but I think if you're a young man or woman or anyone, I think if you can get up to the 40s. I think the last time I really ate a ton of wings was in Pittsburgh with my roommates, and I think I ate 25, and I was like 19, sounds about right. So I would say if you're a young man or woman, and you're someone, I feel like you have to be kind of in shape to do it too. I feel like getting a little bigger, gets the heart racing. it gets the heart racing when you eat wings. It's not a healthy food, so that's gonna be tough. The next question is how many shrimp is impressive. Shrimp is a whole different ballgame. Number one, you're not having the thing with wings. Wings are always kind of same quality. It's not the best thing. It's not the worst thing in quality, but it's just that middle quality. Shrimp can really vary. You can have great shrimp. You go to a nice steak restaurant, especially here in the beautiful Central Coast of California. You can get some really good shrimp. You wouldn't want to eat 20 of those bad boys. They're bigger. They're, shrimp are high in cholesterol. I think people forget about that. The cholesterol level is high in shrimp. You don't want to get, 37 years old. I got to watch my cholesterol. You should always watch your cholesterol. That's why, try not to eat too much ice cream. Everything in moderation. But shrimp, that's where things get a little weird. I think when you really think about the all-you-can-eat shrimp, you think about Red Lobster. And for me, bang for your buck, I think if you start hitting anywhere between 25 and 30 shrimp, that's a lot of shrimp. I know you can probably eat more. I'm aware that you can eat a ton of shrimp. Anyone can eat a ton of shrimp, and good for you if you can. But the thing I'll say about that is you're gonna feel that real bad. That cholesterol is gonna hit. And we're also talking, what kind of shrimp are we eating? Are we doing a shrimp cocktail? Are we doing a shrimp scampi, a fried shrimp? The whole Forrest Gump shrimp idea. All these different kinds of shrimp. If you're doing a straight, shrimp scampi, not going to be as hard-hitting as that fried shrimp. That fried shrimp, that's going to stick to your ribs. It's going to stick to your ribs. So it's going to be a little weird. I would say if you're going straight fried shrimp, Walt's favorite fried shrimp, if I'm speaking correctly on the Red Lobster front, I believe I am. My grandpa's name was Walt, and I always thought they named it after him when I was a kid. So I would say if you're eating fried shrimp, 20 to 25 is pretty impressive, honestly, at this point. Because I feel like at that point, you're just going to make yourself sick. And if you throw up, it doesn't count anymore. It's like, the eating contest. If you throw up after a certain amount of time, it doesn't count. And once you start getting past those numbers, you're going to get sick to your stomach. Like I said, that cholesterol level is going to hit you hard. If you're younger, fried shrimp, you can probably push that over 30. It's still going to be rough. Now, if we start getting into shrimp cocktail, you can probably get a little bit more. You can probably hit 35 shrimp cocktail at that normal size shrimp. Let's say your grocery store shrimp size, not the steakhouse. The steakhouse ones, we're talking big old boy shrimp there. Big old boy shrimp. Kind of seems like those shrimp may be on some sort of drug. So I would suggest an impressive number. What you should be shooting for is 30. 30 all you can eat, maybe up to 35 all you can eat shrimp, depending on fried or shrimp scampi, probably 25. That's a lot of butter. I love me butter. Don't get me wrong, I love the butter. But as you're starting to hit that cholesterol, things are going to get rough for you. Like I said, you don't want to throw it up. You want to feel like you've eaten a lot. You want to impress your friends. I get that. We've all been there. We always want to impress our friends. No matter how old we are, we always want to impress our friends. I feel like now I don't eat a ton of shrimp in my day-to-day just because there's cholesterol levels, like I said. But I would say that 30 is just a good number. If you can hit 30 either way, you're probably going to feel terrible, but it's an impressive number. So, yeah. Watch what you do, though, when you eat shrimp. Also, I almost died on a shrimp one time with a shrimp burrito. Got the very end, slid down my throat. Almost died. What a way to go out. Moving on. Best Bond villain. Now, I think this comes because I was watching Skyfall, the best Bond movie, the other day. And Janie, my fiance, was, she came down. She enjoys the James Bond movies, not necessarily as much as I do, but, it's still something that she enjoyed. I think I probably got her more into it. I will say that. I think that was probably the biggest thing. Is I really got her into it. Dr. No, the original Bond villain. Very great, captivating villain. Basis of what a lot of other people have gone off of. Oh, the video is freaking out. Hopefully it doesn't actually show up. So the basis of what a lot of this has actually been on, that's, I would say part of it. But when you're really looking at it, best Bond villains of all time is a great question. It's a great question. My personal favorite, I'm gonna Le Chiffre from Casino Royale. Really great villain. Kind of an understated villain. I like that. I like that understated villain. Not really trying to go after anything. That's always, to me, the appeal of a Bond is the understated villain. Nothing from the 90s. They're bad. I didn't really like that. Jaws, obviously a great villain, but that was more of your big bad from that's like, he's not really doing anything. He's just one of those guys that is here to attack Bond. The best one, also not surprisingly, it comes from the best Bond movie, Skyfall. Raul Silva, Javier Bardem. He should have been nominated for an Academy Award. That movie should have been nominated for an Academy Award. It's a great meeting, and it really, to this day, bugs me that it did that. Let me make it. He's, once again, underlaying. He doesn't really care about anything. They both are part of this program. There's the whole thing with M. The action sequences are great. He's just so intense, and I think that, to me, is what makes that so much fun. And the other thing that I'll say is the next thing I'll say about the James Bond thing is, I think that's the key. I don't think in a lot of other movies you want to have a villain really stick out, to really be that like overarching thing, like a Thanos. But the idea of a James Bond movie is that villain is kind of underlying. Rami Malek's actually really good in the last James Bond movie, and Blofeld is a great character in the old James Bonds and the new James Bonds. But I'm going to go with Raul Silva. I think it's also because it's probably the best actor to be ever a villain in a James Bond movie. So I will say that from there. The next question. Least favorite Bond, sticking on that theme. Least favorite Bond. I think at the end of the day, it has to be Pierce Brosnan. And I'm not like a Pierce Brosnan hater. I just didn't like those movies. And I think that becomes a problem. And why that becomes a problem for me is, to be Bond, you have to be handsome, but you also have to have a little bit of like a sketch to you. You have to have a little bit of like edge. And I don't think you look at Pierce Brosnan and think there's an edge. Yes, he's handsome. Yes, he looks good in a suit, but I don't trust him as someone that's going to fight people. Daniel Craig totally fits that role. So I think it's the idea of, not having that background in fighting. That look to him. That look, like, there's something about Daniel Craig. Daniel Craig's a handsome man, but there's that edge to him. So I'm going to go Pierce Brosnan, my least favorite. Timothy Dalton, underrated James Bond. I will also say that. All right, moving right along. I know this is like a faster podcast than we're probably anticipating. That's okay. I'm gonna go a little long here, probably at the end, maybe a little soliloquy of sorts. But best song from a movie that became a hit. This one I thought about quite a bit. My Heart Will Go On from Titanic. I'm not a huge Titanic fan, as most of you have known from listening. The movie's very hammy. That song is very cheesy as well. But it's a huge hit. Now this wasn't the biggest hit. This was the best song. So I think there's a couple different options here. I think Go Ninja Go from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles could definitely be up there. The other thing you can maybe think of is a Skyfall. Adele really hit that out of the park there. That's a great song. Beyond that, I feel like you're starting to get into like songs are really good. Anything from musical movies, I just don't know. I mean, like Moulin Rouge, has Lady Marmalade. I think that might be the best because that song was literally everywhere. It was just a hit. I think that song, is a hit either way, whether that movie comes out. Plus, of the time, it was Christina Aguilera, Lil' Kim, Maya, and Pink. So it was just a great group of ladies singing the song, especially of that era. And then also that movie was a pretty big hit. So I am going to go with Lady Marmalade. It's almost everywhere. Whether you liked it or not, it was everywhere. Is it my favorite song? No. But I will say that it is a song that, lasted. It stood the test of time in that particular era. I think that song, it felt like it was on the radio for at least a year straight, really playing there. All right, let's go. Best film adaptation of a video game, the worst. This is a good one. I feel like the worst I'm going to start off of, and we joke around that Super Mario Brothers movie from the 90s is definitely the worst in my mind. I could joke around and say how good it was. I could joke around and be like, oh my gosh, the movie just didn't make any sense. Whether or not, it was bad, it just didn't make any sense. Like, what was going on there? None of the characters made any sense. The movie just didn't really carry I don't know what they were thinking when they wrote that movie. So I think that, to me, is the biggest problem. That's definitely the worst. The best? That's tough, too. I don't think they do this thing well when they make... people comment about books all the time, and I'll say, you know what? Sometimes movies are just as good of the book, if not better. American Psycho is a great thing of this. The book is so weird. I don't know if it necessarily translates well to a movie if you go just with that. Another one would be Gone Girl. That movie's amazing. And so to say that things don't translate well all the time, I think that's a little weak sauce. I really liked Uncharted. I felt like Uncharted didn't need to be what it was and still work. I'm not saying it was a great movie. It was not a great movie by any means, but it worked fine. Tom Holland is definitely, great when it comes to doing things like this. Is he a great actor? We're yet to really know. He's good as Spider-Man. He's good as Peter Parker. We'll see what happens going forward with him. But I think the biggest thing that we talk about when we're moving from that is there's a lot of really funny ones. There's Street Fighter. Those movies are hilarious. The Mortal Kombat movies are so all over the place. We're going to have... I think what's going to happen is this new Super Mario Brothers movie is actually going to end up being the best of them because it looks beautiful. I know we're worried about Chris Pratt's voice in there, but I don't know. I think at the end of the day, it's probably not going to matter too much. I think that's just going to be good, and we can just move on with that. So I will say Uncharted is the best, but I don't think it's gonna last long. I haven't seen the Sonic movies either, so those could be really good. If we're saying best movie that got made into a video game, Aladdin's a great video game. If you remember the Lion King game, also a lot of fun back in the day. I remember having a good amount of fun with both of those games. So any of the Batman movies, movies that they turned into video games actually were pretty good back in the 90s too. So going on that reverse. So I'll stay with that. I'll say Uncharted best. Probably not going to be one that's going to stand the test of time with that Mario Brothers movie coming out because I think that's really going to be a hit. I think it's really going to be enjoyable. Good question. Sticking with the holiday season. I like this question. Someone who has a birthday perfectly placed in May. Better to have a birthday immediately before or after Christmas? I like this question. We have a couple friends that have birthdays around Christmas, on Christmas. I think, for me, if I were able to choose that kind of thing, if you had to pick, we're in the dead week. We're in the dead week right now. Even if you have a job, hopefully it's not too stressful this time of the year. I've worked a couple different jobs where this time of the year, when I was working in journalism, a lot of basketball, a lot of wrestling. So you had to do things like that. But overall, there wasn't a lot going on. So you could just cover that, move on. When I worked at a bank, there wasn't really anything going on. This is when I was working in the loan department, so not a lot going on there. I could really kind of just do my own thing. That was a lot of catch-up time and mustard, if you will. Working at the state library, I actually didn't have to do that because I was on vacation, so kind of avoided that. Working in retail, that was tough. Retail and a restaurant that I worked in at the same time, that was actually really tough. Definitely the toughest. People don't have anything better to do than to go shopping or to go and have food. Testament to this, we just went out to eat at the place I used to work at, and it was very, very busy on a Tuesday afternoon, a rainy Tuesday, a gloomy Tuesday here in Santa Barbara. So that, I think, would lead me to want to have my birthday immediately after. Fill in this dark time. This weird period of who knows what's happening. Where do we need to find? If your birthday's on like the 27th, what a nice time period. Like Christmas is over. I know maybe the gifts maybe change a little bit, but I feel like that's an excuse that doesn't need to happen. I think you get your Christmas gifts, then you get a couple days, and then it's birthday celebration time. You can do stuff for New Year's, but there's no gifts involved at that time of the year. So I would say after. I think before, it's too much stress. All that stress beforehand, people are definitely going to forget about your birthday. They're going to just include it as part of the Christmas. They'll be like, oh, we'll see you at Christmas. But after, you're going to get that Christmas, and then you're going to get a couple days. Maybe you'll go, since you've had a lot of food at home, since you had that Christmas dinner, you'll go out to eat. You'll celebrate that way. I think that couple days, that in-between period of Christmas and New Year's, I think that's a great time to have a birthday. So thank you. Oh, wait, another time for a sponsor. I know we haven't done a lot of sponsors, but this is another time. Cold Air Refrigeration. Great sponsor here. Keeps your beverages cold. Keeps your food lasting longer. Cold Air Refrigeration. Another proud sponsor of the BXG podcast. I don't know where I would be without it. Cold Air Refrigeration. BXG podcast. If you want to receive a discount code of 5% off, visit coldairrefrigeration.ca/BXG podcast. You'll receive that 5% off. Maybe. Okay. Still keeping up with this time of period. Why do people actually like Love Actually? Great question. It's a holiday favorite, especially in the Thompson family that I'm a part of here. They love it. I've tried to like it. And you know how you try to like something, you watch it, and you try to find the things that are enjoyable about it. The number one problem that I have is that it's a very long movie. I also hate the Bill Nighy stuff. It's a little too, I'm not a prude by any means, but it's a little too much for me. Maybe I am a prude. Who knows? I probably am a little bit of a prude, but that's okay. It's okay to be a little bit of a prude. I don't really know. I feel like the movie is mean. It's a mean movie. I don't like the way people get treated in that movie. I don't know why people like it, other than Keira Knightley. Am I correct in this? Keira Knightley. She is good to look at, and I think it's one of those things where you get that. Oh, I can like this movie because whatever, but I can also just look at Keira Knightley. Keira Knightley, if you haven't seen her in Pride and Prejudice, I think I'm right on this one. It's the most beautiful human beings ever looked. So I'm not kidding on that end. She is unbelievable to look at in that movie. She's just, I honestly can't say that enough. So maybe that's it. Maybe it's the Pride and Prejudice thing. Maybe, I don't know. The movie doesn't work for me. I know a lot of people love it. Let me actually look up while I'm here. Let me look up Love Actually, Rotten Tomatoes. Let's see what the viewers of this movie who actually do like it say. 64%. I mean, so not. I don't think that means your Apple or whatever that is called. But you got that. That scene I hate is the scene with the signs, and then everybody stores it. 72% audience score. That sounds about right. A sugary tale, overstuffed with too many stories. Still, the cast charms. I don't really buy that. The cast charming me. I don't feel charmed by it. Let me see here. 2 hours and 15 minutes seems longer than that. Yeah, so I like Bill Nighy sometimes. Alan Rickman is, generally great. His character's kind of crappy in this. Emma Thompson really gets screwed in this movie. Hugh Grant's okay. I like Laura Linney fine. I'm just kind of going through the cast. I'm just really trying. Let's see. Love Actually provides enough happy endings to make the audience forget that the romance and Christmas miracles don't always work out. That's Scott Tobias, AV Club. That's a good score. Bad thing, the tagline of Love Actually is the ultimate romantic comedy, perhaps, but not in the sense the producers intended. Yeah, it's not good. I think honestly, you just put a Christmas movie together. I think the Hallmark, the boom of the Hallmark movies, especially now, has really shown that this can go a little bit absurd and people will still watch it. So I think that's probably it. I think The Holiday is a far superior movie, and I would recommend that over. It's great cast. Jude Law, Kate Winslet, Jack Black. It's Cameron Diaz. It's a great, great movie. So the napkin guy, that's hilarious. It's a cute movie. Those little British girls are adorable. So I would recommend The Holiday over. If you only had to pick one, you can watch as many as you want. Christmas season's, the movie watching is almost over. But if you had to pick one, I would say The Holiday, a superior movie. Really good actors doing just, it's not too many people. Plus the old Jewish man is great. Great character. So I'm going to say just pick that over Love Actually. So I don't really know why people like Love Actually. Let's see. Almost done, but I'm going to go superior sequel to the original movie. That's a good question. Because I think when you're looking at superior, that movie needs to be far and away better than the original. So you could say, a lot of people are going to go Dark Knight, easy. Just go, Batman Begins, pretty good movie. And so for me to say that The Dark Knight is so superior that it just makes you forget about it, I don't necessarily believe that's the case. Dark Knight, great, great movie. I'm not going to take away from it. But is it so superior that it kind of makes you forget Batman Begins? I don't know. The Dark Knight also is more of a Joker movie than it is a Batman movie. There's some really, great scenes in it. I'm struggling with this a little bit. I think I'm actually going to go that I'm going to say Terminator 2. No, not a big James Cameron fan. I'm going to say Terminator 2 is actually a superior movie. I think all the stuff I always think about with Terminator actually comes from Terminator 2. Now, maybe it's just when I grew up in the 90s. That was more of in the zeitgeist. I'm going to say Terminator 2, but there's a lot of good sequels out there, especially if you're looking at, like, The Winter Soldier, Captain America, that's a sequel to Captain America, if you want to look at it. I love that movie, but when you're all mishmashed together in Marvel, I don't know about that. Batman Returns, another Batman movie. Good sequel. Not superior to the original, but I think a lot of people forget about the original Terminator and really think Terminator 2. So I am actually going to say Terminator 2 as my recommendation here, because I think people forget about it, the original one. Terminator 2 is a great, great movie. It's probably James Cameron's last actually good movie that doesn't take advantage of cultural appropriation of Native Americans. And so I will go with that. And then the final question, just more of a comment maybe than a question, but Emperor Palpatine's sexual escapades. So this came up because of the last 3 Star Wars movies. We realized that Palpatine is Rey's granddad, which is just weird. Maybe Palpatine was the original Riz God. We saw that video of the Philadelphia 76ers cheerleader. Obviously, she was very attractive, and then her boyfriend comes out to propose. He is not what you would say, traditionally handsome. Not a John Hamm. Not a George Clooney lookalike by any means. Probably a nice guy. I have my questions about what happened there. My answer is probably that he's rich and she's cheerleader, and I think that's probably what happened. But the guy made a joke about it. He said, Pete Davidson could walk, so he could run. The guy has a good attitude about it. Probably, that's what I'm saying. The guy's probably nice, and we hear about, the ladies love a guy with humor. So maybe that's it. I'm just going to say, yeah, Emperor Palpatine, probably the original Riz God. Just kind of doing his own thing. Not a handsome fellow, Palpatine by any means, but not a, maybe back in the day it was funny. Maybe that's it. And then he got a little salty, didn't work out. Probably got put in a lot of the friend zone, I'm guessing was the original issue there. So I'm going to say Emperor Palpatine, Riz God, and that ends the questions. I did see one question. How do you do it? And I think that question was really just, how do you do it? How do you work with Brenton? How do you do it? It takes a lot of patience dealing with someone so against joy. And that's why I try to brighten it up. I talk about Taylor Swift. We talk about pop, and someone who just hates joy so much, hates fun so much, you have to bring that in there. So that's how I do it. I just bring the joy. I keep a warm heart. I keep a warm heart when I'm doing the podcast. Media recommendations. I finally got back to read. I read my first John Grisham book. Thanks for asking. Playing for Pizza. It's about this quarterback who struggles in the NFL in his last game. Has to go play football in Italia. First he hates it, doesn't know what's going on there, and he falls in love with the culture as one does in Italy, to the food and to the paintings and to the women. And it's a great book. You know what I like about it? It's a fastball down the middle. Pew! Either you hit it or you don't. And it's like I said, my first Grisham book, but I love the movies. I love the movies. The Grisham books turned movies. So I feel like I'm going to go into more Grisham. It's a quick read for me. So I will say that. And yeah, that's my media recommendations. Make sure you check us out everywhere. You listen to your music or in your podcast, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, all that other crap that you listen to stuff on. I don't know. Are you really listening to anything other than Apple or Spotify? Let me know. Let us know in the comments. Check out our YouTube videos. We got a lot of stuff up there. Check those out. We have a lot of reactions. Those are always fun. Good responses there. We've gotten a lot of views, a lot of content up there now. So check those out. And make sure to email us at BXG Productions, bxgprods@gmail.com. Or just, you can find us on Twitter, BXG Prods, on Twitter. Check us out on Instagram, BXG Prods, me, GTPHLS, Alpha Donut Guy for Brenton. Check us out. Hit us up there. We love the comments. Thanks for watching. Happy New Year, everybody. And don't worry about making those New Year's resolutions. You're not going to hold on to it. I've been saying I'm going to do a cartwheel every year, and I haven't yet. I don't plan on doing one this year either. Does the older I get, the more scared I feel of doing something like that. Don't worry about those New Year's resolutions. Go Blue. Go ahead and beat TCU on Saturday for me. And thanks for watching, everybody. Brenton will be back next week when we do our regular show. We'll talk about TV shows, movies. We'll hit up everything. Avatar reached $1 billion. Good for you, James Cameron. Pat yourself on your back. Get that rib removed, sir. And that's it. That's the podcast. I did it. I did a solo podcast. I tried to keep it short because I didn't want people to hear me ramble forever. But really appreciate it. Thank you for all your support over these 2+ years. Keep listening. Take care, friends.